Hello. Am I live? Am I live? I am live. Hello. Hi everybody. Welcome to my second live session. I was hoping it would get a bit easier, but so far it's not. I was as nervous as I was last week. If anybody's there, please give me a comment. Tell me, say hello. Tell me that you're there so that I know I'm not talking to myself. Anybody there? Hey, hi Jem, good to see you. Thank you. I'm just not all by myself. It's good to know. Okay, I'll give it a couple more minutes just to see if anybody else is going to be popping in. I think there was about 9 who said they were coming. So we'll see. Okay. God, I hate this bit. Relax, it'll be fine. So tonight's session, the subject, there were 2 subjects that were in the front running, which is, hi David, I'm good, thank you, hope you're good too. Yeah, so the 2 subjects that were kind of like neck and neck were losing weight faster and routine. Rather than sort of go for another poll, I thought it would be easier just to do one this week and then we'll do the other one next week. So there won't be a poll this week because we've already got next week's topic, which will be routine. So today we're going to be covering losing weight faster. So for those of you who don't know me, hi Linda, good to see you. So those of you who don't know me, hopefully you all do by now, but obviously my name's Claire. Hi Joe. I run my business called YourOneLife, and which is sort of lifestyle coaching, but I've really focused down into weight loss, and not just any weight loss either. It's really what I'm really trying to do is to help people who are struggling with the yo-yo dieting, which is, you know, where you lose a bit of weight and then you put it back on again and then you lose it again and you maybe put it back on again and maybe put a bit more back on. And it's so easy to reach the point where you just kind of think, well, I'm fed up with this, I can't do it, it's just no good, I'm going to be overweight forever and then I'm going to have all these problems. And it really doesn't have to be like that. And I'm so passionate about this, and I really want to try and reach those people who perhaps are not yet maybe even ready for thinking about this, but if I can just keep going with my messages to say, you know, it is possible to do something about this, then, you know, please, you know, get in touch with me because I want to help. I've been working this week on sort of really trying to get a bit more comfortable with trying to promote myself, because I think I'm quite introverted naturally, and so trying to promote my service doesn't really come very naturally to me. So I'm sort of struggling with this whole concept, but I've been really working on what is it that I'm trying to get out there, and I think what it's really important for me to remember and to try and get over myself is that what I'm doing is actually providing a really good service here. And that's what I have to try and remember, and that's what I want to get across. And that's why when I did this preparing for weight loss course that we ran a few weeks ago, the outcome of that was so powerful, and that's what I really want to try and get across to people, that, you know, that it is possible to make changes, to lose weight. If you're really struggling with your weight, it doesn't have to be like that. Anyway, I will stop going on about that now, but I just really want to try and get that across, that I am what I am offering is something that can really help, and the you know, the things that people were saying about the course, I think really demonstrate that. So if you're not sure and you want to find out more, then please go and have a look at my reviews on Trustpilot, because they do really tell it how it is in terms of the benefits. So which brings me on to why I'm doing these lives, because I want my service to be as accessible to everybody as possible. So I appreciate that, you know, one-to-one coaching is probably out of the reach for a lot of people, both in terms of time and money. Whereas coming and sitting on, you know, listening into a video once a week, or, you know, joining in the Facebook group, which is free, is on the other end of the spectrum. And I really want to be able to to make what I've got to say more accessible to everybody. So these sessions are really sort of snippets of the things that I cover in my one-to-one coaching and in my courses, so that everybody can get some benefit from it. So going back to tonight, obviously losing weight faster is the topic that we're going to cover tonight, and that's a really interesting question, actually. When I was putting together what I was going to talk about tonight, it really sort of made me sort of think, well, what do we mean when we say how to lose weight faster? So I'll come on to that in a moment. But what I want to firstly say before I do is that what I'm going to say tonight is basically my own views, okay, based on a combination of decades of my own experience, for one, formal studying, informal learning, and working with people. So it may or may not align with other people's views, but that's okay, because, you know, say everybody's entitled to their own opinion. And this is my opinion, and I do think it's a very valid one. And the other thing I really ought to say is that this is aimed at people who are struggling with their weight. It is not aimed at people who are perhaps following a physical activity program that's very demanding, such as bodybuilding or marathon training or anything like that. This is really aimed at people who are really focusing on just wanting to get on top of their weight, to manage their weight. Okay, so just really want to make that clear. So we had some questions come in. Thank you, Jem, who seemed to ask them on behalf of everybody, because nobody else has asked any, but that's okay, because it's quite a broad topic and there's probably a lot to say. But obviously, if anyone does have any questions afterwards, or even sort of, you know, at the end of the session, if anyone wants to put any questions on in the comments, then please do. Oh, Linda, I just seen your comment. Thank you. Lovely to see you too. I know you're sure you're looking gorgeous too, and certainly in all your paintings, they're amazing. Right, so the questions we've had come in are: is it sensible to lose weight quickly? Does it stay off? And are there any food groups that could be targeted to lose faster? So very good questions there. I'm going to answer them, but before I do, I'm just going to run through a few things that I think it's important to get out of the way. So firstly, we need to put some context around how to lose weight faster, because what does that even mean? So I think firstly we need to consider, you know, in the context of a goal. So how much weight do you want to lose, and how long do you want to take losing it? So for example, you know, it might be that you've got a party coming up, although it's a bit difficult to have parties at the moment, but you know, you have an event coming up, for example, and you want to be able to get into an outfit in 2 weeks' time, so you've kind of got to shed half a stone quickly. You know, there's that position. Then there's the other position where you might have a lot to lose and you just want to get it done as quickly as possibly can, which is fair enough. So it really does depend on, you know, what is your goal as to whether that is realistic or not. So how fast is faster for you? Faster than what, for example? So for some people it may simply be a case of just simply, if you are following a program and you're not getting the progress that you feel you should be getting, is perhaps looking more closely at what you're actually doing, because a lot of the problems that we have as humans, which is, you know, very, very normal, is not necessarily being as consistent as we maybe think we're being. So that is a common issue. But the answers to these questions will be very different according to your own situation. So the other things I really need to cover is that obviously, to lose weight, there is no getting away from the fact that we need to have a calorie deficit. So what does that actually mean? Well, it means that obviously we have to be consuming less than we are burning, so that what we have is a gap, and that our body fat is then used to for the body to use as energy to obviously allow us to live and breathe and go about our daily activities, and therefore obviously we then lose weight. And obviously, in simple terms, in order to lose weight faster, we need to have a bigger deficit. than if we were losing weight slower. And that's just physics. So how do you get a deficit? Well, the simple answer to that is eat less and better and move more, or both. If only it was that simple, because that sounds incredibly easy, doesn't it? But if that was that easy, why do we all find it so hard? I think firstly, one of the things is the practicality of it. So obviously the faster we want to lose weight, the more dedicated we have to be to the process, and the less room there is for cheating, and that is even by a small amount. So for example, I don't know who likes peanut butter here and who likes to lick the knife, or take the little bit of peanut butter off the knife, and not necessarily count that we've done it. Now, peanut butter is one of my favourite foods. It's also one of the most calorific foods, and there is no room for error. If I'm trying to follow a specific sort of programme, there really is no room for error for things like that. So that's an area where I think a lot of people struggle in terms of maintaining that consistency to a programme. So one of the things that is really important to do when we're considering about the pace of losing weight is the trade-offs that we need to make, and decide whether or not what we want to do in terms of the speed is worth the effort, and is it realistic and achievable for what's going on in our lives at the moment. For some people it might very well be, but for other people it absolutely is not, and so to keep trying is just setting ourselves up to fail, and just causes misery, and there is no point in being miserable when when we're choosing to be miserable. There's no benefit to that. So if we want to lose weight faster, we have to accept that there's things we have to stop doing, and we have to give up in the short term or in the medium term, depending on how long we want to go on for. We can't have it both ways. So we can't expect the results without putting in the work. It is as simple as that. So, and another issue in terms of losing weight is like, I just want to get it over with as quickly as possible. So it's so unpleasant having to be on a diet. I don't want to do it, so it's like, well, let's just cut back as hard as we can for, as long as we can bear it, and then hope for the best. And the thing is, again, that then just makes the whole process miserable, and it really doesn't have to be. So the question there is whether or not we need to be in such a hurry to lose it. If we had perhaps lower expectations about the speed of which how to lose weight, or how quickly to lose weight, then actually the whole experience might be so much more manageable and more achievable in the long run. But I'm not going to talk about that tonight, because that is a whole discussion for another time. And obviously this topic is all about how to lose weight faster, but I just think it's important just to bring that in, because it is, when we say we want to lose weight faster, we have to understand what it is that we are having to sacrifice in order to do so. So the bottom line is, how important is it for you to lose weight quickly, and how realistic and achievable is it in the context of your life at the moment to lose weight quickly? Are you prepared to do what it takes? And if you have not sustained it in the past, or not managed to do it in the past, another question to ask is, what makes you think this time it's going to be any different? So is it better to perhaps look at a different way? But that said, having got all of that out of the way, let's talk about losing weight faster. So one thing that sort of struck me as I was writing this was thinking about the problem with it comes to weight loss is that, generally speaking, if you're like me, you want to eat as much of the foods you like, and as much of the foods you like, and as much as you like, but you also want to be a healthy weight. And unfortunately, the two are completely incompatible. So we do have to make trade-offs. We literally want to have our cake and eat it, or I do anyway. And I know I have an obsession with cake because I kept talking about it last week. But that is true. We have to make tough decisions, and we have to make trade-offs. So if after thinking about those trade-offs and think, yes, I'm absolutely prepared to do what it takes to lose weight faster, then stick around, because that's what I'm going to go into more detail on now. So there are some things that are vital. in order to be successful. Now, I mentioned yesterday in the group, I don't know if anybody has seen it or if everyone has seen it, but I have a framework that I've developed, which I go through in my course, and I've applied it to this talk really, because there are a number of different elements in order to be successful with any weight loss, whether it's fast weight loss or not. Is there need to be a number of elements that need to be in place and need to all be working in harmony together. And the first one of those is motivation. We talked about that last week, so if you haven't seen that video yet from last week, then do please go and have a look at it, because that does go into quite a lot of detail about motivation and how to stay motivated, and what have you. Is that Caroline I just see popped in? Hi Caroline, good to see you. And then the next area is really sort of about accountability and responsibility, and being honest with ourselves about what we're doing. And accepting that it does take work, and to actually do the work, and do it consistently. It's so easy to forget about lots of little snacks here and there, and eating on autopilot, not noticing the quantities, and also the drinks, the amount of calories there are in drinks, and it's so easy to forget them. And these calories, they sneak in here, there and everywhere, and they can really make the difference between success or not. So it's about being responsible and accountable and honest about that, and accepting that nobody makes us do anything when it comes to putting food on our mouths. We do that. We choose to put food in our mouths. We may not make the best choices, but we are making choices all the time. Nobody's forcing us to do anything. We need to have knowledge and understanding of what we're doing, and knowledge and understanding of the factors that affect the energy that we consume in food and the energy that we use, so that we're not taking in more calories than we think we are, and we're not burning less than we think we are. So it is worth spending time learning about this before you embark on anything, because it really can make the difference between success or not. This is one of the things, the whole point of my Preparing for Weight Loss course is that it goes through all of these things prior to going on any weight loss program, so that everyone is fully equipped to go forward and be successful. So we need to slow down in order to be able to speed up. So take a step back. What is going on? What am I currently eating? Am I currently maintaining my weight with what I'm eating? And then really understanding the quality of what we're eating, the quantity of what we're eating, and also how much exercise we're taking. And then is that giving us balance at the moment? If it is, then obviously we know where the starting point is, and we know then that we need to either reduce what we eat or get more active, or both. But quite often I think what we tend to do is just sort of go headlong into something, and perhaps doing something that somebody else has done, but not necessarily appreciating that might not be right for us, or that it might be that we haven't kind of fully grasped what's going on for us in the first place. So once you know what your baseline is, you can then quite easily make adjustments. And obviously the faster you want to lose weight, the bigger the adjustments you have to make. But it's down to you and your choices as to what fits with your life. And I haven't got time to go into all of that tonight, because that is a whole other session on what constitutes what to eat. But there is a whole ton of information out there on the internet. So a good place to start is to go to the NHS Eat Well website, which has got loads and loads of information. There's also MyFitnessPal, where you can input food and you can kind of get a good idea of what's currently going in, and then that can give you an idea of what adjustments to make. But so that's a whole other session I haven't possibly got time to go into tonight, but it is worth doing, and it is definitely worth spending that time before you try and do anything. So there is something else I wanted to cover, is that you sometimes hear about people saying, well, you've got to eat enough, because if you don't eat enough, then you'll go into starvation mode and then you won't lose any weight. Now, there is different opinions about this. My take on it is that if it was really true, then the programs that are designed for very low calorie diet weight loss simply wouldn't work. But they do work, and people can get tremendous results on those kinds of programs. So I do think that, you know, in my experience, my own experience, and what I've seen of others, and obviously working with other people, is that if someone is trying to lose weight and they are not getting results, it's because they're either it's because they're not in a calorie deficit, and that may be because they're eating more than they think, or they're being less active than they think, or there potentially is a medical condition that they might need to get checked out with a doctor. But for the vast majority of people, it is simply that they are eating more than they think, and they are being less active than they think. One of the things that I have shared a few times now is that we are what we do, not what we say we do. And it's very easy when we're in conversation with someone and they say, oh yes, how many times do you exercise a week? Oh, well, I exercise 4 times a week. Well, quite often the case is that we may not exercise 4 times a week. It might be that we do 3 times or 2 times, but in our heads we still do 4 times because that's what we plan to do. But when we really break it down, we're not necessarily being as honest with ourselves or anyone else as we perhaps could be. And that may be, again, a place where some extra calories could be found. So there's work to be done to investigate what makes a calorie deficit for each individual, because we're all different, and there are so many different factors that can affect it. But the vast majority of people, it is quite straightforward and usually boils down to what we're doing or not doing to create a calorie deficit or not. Another thing that needs to be in place, obviously, to be successful is we have to have a commitment to the process and be 100% accountable to that. So it is perfectly possible, for example, to lose weight even if you can't exercise or if you have health problems, but it is about finding the right approach for the individual, because it is not one size fits all. But it is possible to get a calorie deficit, it is possible to lose weight, and it is, I wouldn't say it's easy, but it is possible. Another thing really just to say is that those people who say they are trying to lose weight but can't are often the same people who, when they truly commit to the process, suddenly start to get results. It's really, really interesting. I have seen it many, many times. And it's usually because previously they perhaps weren't doing the right approach for them, or they weren't being consistent, or a bit of both, and perhaps not prepared to admit it to themselves or anyone else. So the faster you want to lose weight, the more committed you have to be, the less room there is for cheating, for want of a better word. Can't stress that enough. So going on to the questions then, now we've got that sort of out of the way. Is it sensible to lose weight quickly? Answer to that is it depends. Firstly, it depends on your own health and well-being and what's going on for you. But yes, it can be. And again, it comes back to what do we mean by quickly. So, you know, are we talking about a very low calorie diet where you're eating perhaps 800 calories a day on a formal program, such as the one-to-one diet, which is what used to be called Cambridge diet, Lighter Life, or the Fast 800. They are all sort of safe, proven methods. I'm not making any recommendations here, but they are diets that you can go out and research and see whether you want to follow them. Some of them do require a GP approval, and also recommend that your body mass index is above a certain level in order for it to be safe for you to do, because it's not designed for people to do if they have not got much weight to lose. And then obviously if you decide to cut down on your own and design your own diet, or if you go off to do you know, Slimming World or Weight Watchers or any of the other sort of well-known programs out there, you know, you've got different levels in those programs in terms of, you know, how strict you want to be. But one thing that is really, really important to bear in mind is that the less calories you have, obviously the less nutrition you have, and obviously that can potentially create deficiencies over a period of time. It is really important not to exclude things like protein or fat. Your body absolutely needs them to be healthy. So, you know, fat is not the enemy. There are obviously better fats than others. So, you know, it's important to be considering what type of fat you're eating. But again, that's not a discussion for tonight, but, you know, certainly something I can cover another time. But it's really important to have all of the food groups, unless you are doing a particular kind of diet, which I'm going to come on to in a minute. It's also important to remember that you will probably get hungry. The more you cut back on your calorie intake, the more hungry you're likely to be. And the more hungry you're likely to be, the harder it is to maintain. Which means that, you know, if you find yourself in a situation where you are tempted and you're hungry, and you haven't got sort of things around you to rely on, then, you know, you're at high risk of giving into that temptation and then sort of going back down that spiral of, oh, you know, I can't do it, and what have you. So it is a bit of a risk. Exercise might quite possibly feel like more of an effort, because you're not having as much energy, and when our bodies are burning fat, it takes longer for the body to go through that process to produce that or make that energy available to you than it does if you're burning carbohydrates. So it can feel sluggish. You can train your body to do it more effectively, more quickly, but it can make you feel more sluggish. I certainly found that I didn't exercise as effectively if I was cutting back on my food. I needed the energy. So again, it's a trade-off. You know, are you prepared to, you know, if you want to exercise hard and cut down your calories, you are going to get hungry. And then, of course, there is the reward aspect. It's very easy to kind of think, well, I burnt all these calories, so I can go and have this, that, and the other. And unfortunately, most of the fitness trackers seriously underestimate, or overestimate, should I say, they seriously overestimate how many calories we burn. So if your fitness tracker tells you did 600 calories in an aerobics class, and then you go and eat 600 calories, chances are you have eaten more than you burned, because chances are you didn't burn 600 calories. They don't know. Again, this is a whole other thing I could go into for another session, but really, please don't take any notice of the calorie burn on a fitness tracker, because they are likely to be inaccurate. And if you're basing your calorie intake on them, then, you know, there's a huge room for error there. Another thing to remember when you go onto a low-calorie diet is that the first few pounds that you lose will be water and glycogen, which is a form of fuel that's stored in your muscles. And for every pound of glycogen your body stores, it stores 3 pounds of water. So as soon as you go onto heavily restricted program, you will lose a lot of weight, but it's not fat. And it's easy to kind of think that it is, but it's not. You know, it's great. It's a great boost psychologically to see, oh yeah, the scales are going down, but it's not fat. And so, of course, when you come out the other side, the reverse is going to happen. You will put that glycogen and water back on. But again, it's not fat. It's nothing to be worried about, but it does get confusing. So that's the first question. The second question, does it stay off? Well, again, the answer to that is it depends. Now, I get quite cross when I hear people say diets don't work because you put the weight back on. Well, actually, if you lost the weight, the diet worked. There's no doubt about it. If you lost the weight, it's what you do afterwards that becomes the crucial aspect. So some diets are better than others about re-educating us. But whether you did the diet that educated you or not, it actually doesn't really matter. You still have to do the education to make sure that you don't go back to old habits. But that's not the fault of the diet. It's like we're talking about two different things here, really. Some diets will educate you, some diets won't. And if they don't, then it's down to you to do that work. It's not the diet. The diet worked if you followed it and you lost the weight. So but obviously, when it comes to losing weight fast, there are some risks to be aware of in terms of things like the rebound effect. So what I mentioned about the glycogen and the water, So as soon as you start eating normally, you're going to fill up with glycogen and water if you've been on a very low calorie diet. So that could easily add half a stone almost overnight. But it's not fat, and it's okay. And it's a whole other session on that. So it's important to perhaps gradually reintroduce more calories to find that new equilibrium for your body. And it is important to be aware that if you have had a lot of weight to lose, then your new maintenance level will be much lower than your old one, because there is simply less of you. So your body doesn't need as much energy to move around. So yes, your metabolism will slow down. So you need to be aware of that in terms of how much you can eat once you've reached your target weight. It will be less than what you used to eat. There's no getting away from that. But there are things that you can do about it. Obviously getting worried about the scales going up, the glycogen and water factor. So that can cause people to panic and think, oh, it's not working. So, and then it's so easy to then just sort of fall back into those old habits and those old patterns of thinking, and then suddenly, a few months down the line, that weight's back on, and here we go again. So it's just being aware. It doesn't matter how fast you've lost it, that is always going to be a risk. It wasn't one of the questions, but I think it's important to bring in here is, what about exercise? Because I've talked a lot about obviously how much we're eating. So where does exercise fit into all of this? Because obviously you can say, well, okay, so I want to create a big calorie deficit. Why don't I just do loads and loads of exercise? Well, one thing I would say is that when you are trying to be very disciplined, which you need to be if you're following a very strict regime, which you would need to be if you're trying to lose weight fast, then trying to focus on more than one thing at a time is counterproductive, or can be very counterproductive. So we tend to either be sort of mediocre at two things or really good at one. So in my opinion and my experience, it is better to focus on one thing and do that well and consistently. And my own personal advice would be, when trying to lose weight fast, concentrate all your efforts on the diet and don't worry too much about the exercise. I'm not saying don't exercise, because exercise is really good for us and it's important that we get out, and it's good for our mental health. It's good to obviously stay active, good for our joints, good for so many things. So walking, perhaps some gentle jogging, gentle movements, but not trying to chase any activity goals. And then when you've reached the point where you feel you've lost enough, or perhaps you just want to take a break and just sort of relax a little bit, then you can really ramp the exercise up, and that will help to boost your metabolism and maintain what you've lost so far. So I'm not saying don't exercise, but just don't worry about the exercise is kind of what I'm saying. And the other aspect is that the problem with doing lots of exercise is that it takes a very long time to burn a lot of calories when you're doing a lot of exercise. So there's the time factor and the energy factor. You need lots of energy to do a lot of exercise. Plus the fact that exercise actually does cause stress to the body, which can then cause various internal processes to take place that can affect our fat loss, amongst other things. And as I said earlier, fitness trackers do tend to grossly overestimate how much we've burned, so we can end up eating back more than we thought we burned. So it is, again, it's sort of a bit of a risk, and I'm sure you've probably heard the sayings of diet is key, because you can't out-train a bad diet, and abs are made in the kitchen, and that is absolutely right. So as I said at the beginning, though, this is really about people who are just sort of struggling with weight. This is not about if you are chasing activity goals or bodybuilding and stuff like that. That is a completely different discussion. Okay, last question. Are there any food groups that could be targeted to lose faster? Well, yes, there are, in terms of cutting them out, potentially. So there are certain diets where carbohydrates are greatly reduced, which induces a state called ketosis, which basically means that your body isn't taking in carbohydrates, so it's not taking in glucose, or not very much, which means that your body is having to draw on its fat stores pretty much entirely in order to provide the body with the fuel that it needs. And that basically there's a number of benefits to that. One is that you lose weight very fast, and you can do it without getting hungry. It takes a few days for your body to adapt to it, and it is like they describe it as climbing a wall, because you can feel very icky for the first few days and headachy and everything. But once your body's sort of got over that, and then you come out the other side, it's sort of like going up on an aeroplane and coming out and you get to the top of the clouds, and then everything becomes a lot easier. And they are very effective for some people, but as I said earlier, it is really important to get checked out to make sure that it's the right diet for you and that you fit the criteria, because not everybody can do it. So there is that option. Again, you have to be very dedicated to do it. It's not for the faint-hearted. So there's things like Fast 800, and there's also intermittent fasting as well, and the one-to-one diet, Lighter Life. There's a few others that are kind of on, in that sort of group now. So I'd say do your own research on it and see what might be applicable to you. In terms of food groups to take in, yes, make sure that you're having enough protein and enough fat, because they're, as well as being vital for body functions, so we need them to be healthy, they can also help us to feel satisfied for longer, so it stops us from getting hungry. And eating unrefined foods, as well as being far more nutritious in higher in volume, which obviously keep us feeling fuller, the body has to work harder to digest them, so we end up absorbing less of the calories than we would in the refined foods, and we also actually burn calories digesting them. So you sort of basically think of the least human intervention, the better. So unprocessed meats, fish, dairy products, grains, beans, nuts, fruit and veg. Again, go back to the NHS Eat Well website. There's loads and loads of information on there about what's good to eat. So basically, the less tampered with it's been, the more close to its natural state, the better, really, in terms of that. So in summary, I think I've droned on for a little bit longer than last week. There's just 5 key points that I sort of really want to emphasise here. One is, obviously, first of all, if you want to lose weight fast, you really need to consider whether the trade-offs required are worth it for you, and whether maybe a slower approach might be more realistic. It's important to spend some time reviewing what you're currently doing, because if you don't know what you're doing wrong, it's hard to know how to fix it. There's a great program which I recommend to all my clients called Secret Eaters. You can find it on YouTube. I really, really would encourage you to have a look at that, because it's quite an eye-opener. Spend some time learning about the different approaches, consider what approach is right for you, and then follow it properly. It's absolutely vital to be successful. You have to follow a program properly. Make sure that you're committed to the process, being honest with yourself, and have the knowledge and skills you need to make it work. And I'll just finally say that, obviously, don't feel confident about doing any of this on your own, then that's what my Preparing for Weight Loss course is all about. And I welcome with open arms anyone who wants to come on it, because it is really, really does bring all of this together. So that's kind of it. And just one other thing to say really is that I'm quite excited. I've got some exciting news coming, in that I am going to be launching my monthly membership next month, which I shall be posting more details about in the group. And part of that, one of the benefits is going to be some actual live group coaching sessions. So sort of like a bit of a step up from what we're doing here. You'll actually all be able to get involved, and we'll be able to sort of have some interactive coaching on some specific issues. So something to think about if you want to take it that step further. So that is it from me. Oh, hi Nell. You'll catch up later, I'm sure. Without further ado, I shall say good night, because I've droned on for 10 minutes longer than planned, but hopefully that was useful. Do let me know, and obviously do ask me any questions, either by direct message or in the group, whatever you feel more comfortable doing. Yeah, let me know what else you'd like to see. Obviously the poll for next week there isn't going to be one, because we've already got next week's topic, which is going to be on routine. But obviously do keep the ideas coming, because I want to make sure that what I'm talking about is what you all want to know. So thank you, and have a good evening, and I will see you next time.